Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're well. Today we're going to be looking at something slightly different from my other videos. Today we'll be looking at an actual guitar, and we're going to look at a guitar that's important to both myself and also had a massive impact on how we view low-priced instruments and the budget end of guitars in general. So I'll show you what we will be looking at today, and it is this. This is my Squier Classic Vibe Butterscotch Black Telecaster. It is something that I've had for about 5 years now. It'll be 5 years in May. This one's got an interesting backstory to it. You'll notice it's not stock at all in terms of the electronics. I'll go through that in a moment. But yeah, so this guitar is something that I have had for quite a while now. I picked it up in Anderton's. I went in on this lovely May afternoon for bass strings, and I saw this in the second-hand rack. And it had this lovely massive gouge in the heel, and it was £99 because of the damage. So I went and played it, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with it in terms of feel, the tone. The original 50's type pickups that are in here were fantastic. For single coils, they were really good, nice and clear, articulate. Yeah, I decided to pick this up and mod it. So I walked out that afternoon with a new guitar and bass strings, basically. I picked this up. This is a 2010 model. These were released in 2008 to slightly, I think people were skeptical about them. These were made in China, and they were basically Squier's attempt to kind of get back into the budget market. But what they do is they offer something slightly different. The Classic Vibe series was supposed to basically put vintage style instruments back in the hands of beginner and intermediate players, or players with a lower budget. So the idea is that a lot of the guitars that came out in this range actually mirrored a lot of the American vintage reissue models. So there was another one which was a 50's Telecaster, which was a sort of a blonde white, and it had a pine body and a maple neck, which is like the very first batch of Telecasters had. There was also several Strats, Classic Vibe Strats, which were in the range. And eventually also they had Jazz Masters, which were vintage modified. There was a Classic Vibe Jazz Master, which was the J Mascis signature as well. So as I say, these kind of came out to skeptical fanfare. So Squier was singing the praises of these guitars, the manufacturing. As I say, these were made in China. But the internet communities, particularly forums like TDPRI, really latched onto these. As soon as people found out that they were doing vintage Telecasters for about $350, $400, and in the UK they were about £300. People started playing more of them and doing, giving them more airtime, making sound clips of them and doing videos with them and reviews with them, and people were genuinely shocked at how good they were. They aren't short of features. They got classic style F tuners, they got synthetic bone nut, non-compensated brass saddles, so the sustain on these is really good. Now, I bought this one for modding. So originally they had what people believe were Alnico 5 tone riders. What I did was I bought mine and I ripped out all the electronics and I put in a little 59 in the bridge and a Seth Lover humbucker in the neck, and I also put in some push-pull coil taps. Now the idea was that both these were going to be coil tapped. So the bridge is coil tapped, that one does nothing because that only has 2 wire connectors rather than 4, and I only realized this once I purchased it and it was delivered. So I decided to take a chance with it, and actually I kind of prefer it as a full neck humbucker. So I left it basically the ability that you could kind of have the neck humbucker and a bridge, either single coil or full 59 humbucker. That was fine for me. And actually, to be fair, when you split this, what it does is it kind of halves the output anyway. So the little 59's output is about 16 ohms, which is quite hot. And when you split it, you get 8 ohms, which is still quite hot for a single coil. Balances really nicely with the sort of path sound of the neck pickup. So it all works very well, all sounds really good. I absolutely love this guitar. In terms of tones and stuff like that and the feel, with the maple neck, it cuts quite nicely. It's got quite a lot of mids in the guitar naturally anyway. And with the maple neck, the string attack and the top end is really quite sweet. And it cuts quite nicely in a mix. So I've used this on my own EPs quite a lot because it's a nice big sound that really sits well in a mix, doesn't interrupt the bass frequencies at all. The only thing I've found that with it sometimes is that it and the cymbals occasionally do fight, but I'm not too worried about that. Really, I can trim the highs and the EQ. When I got this, I went online to see what was happening with it, and as I say, forums like TDPRI their owners club thread even now is 192 pages long. People absolutely loved these guitars, and people were genuinely shocked to see how good they were. A lot of people were doing sort of A/B testing with their own high-end Telecasters, and in a lot of cases, in terms of the sound, there wasn't really much difference, if any. They were fantastically built. This one has no sharp fret ends. The nut is cut very well. It plays fantastically. This is one of my go-tos. So whenever I'm home and I just want to play, I'll pick this up because it's familiar. It's got a modern C-shaped neck. It's got jumbo frets. It's a very playable guitar. I put it in the hands of friends and other guitarists at jam nights and stuff like that, and they love it. You can't really get away from how good this thing is. And as I say, it kind of redefined how we view budget guitars. When Squier released the Classic Vibe series, they were kind of a bit, I don't know, they'd experienced a bit of inertia. They weren't really going anywhere with the brand. They were still pumping out very cheap, the Squier Affinity guitars were everywhere. They weren't doing much for the brand name. I think with this, I think Squier kind of put themselves back on the map a little bit, which was kind of nice to see. They kind of really thought about the design of the guitars. They thought about what guitarists in the sort of the budget range actually wanted. They wanted guitars that they could aspire to, that felt good to play, that you weren't fighting, and they really achieved that with this, which was really nice to see, to be honest. I've played a few Squiers before they released these, and it was sad more than anything, sometimes playing them. As I say, this one, it's got, you know, it's just a really nice looking guitar for the money. I have actually almost drilled through the body there when I was putting in the electronics, which was fun because the cavities weren't deep enough for the push-pull pots. So if you do buy these with a view of modding them, just be aware of that. You do have to do some modification of the woods, but otherwise they're just stellar guitars. They have just been recently discontinued, which is a shame, but I think they've had a 10-year run now, which is a fantastic achievement for any guitar line, particularly for what these were, which was essentially they were groundbreaking instruments in terms of what we can now expect from budget instruments and budget guitars. After these were released, many manufacturers stepped up their manufacturing game in order to make sure that their bottom line guitars were up to scratch, basically. People were starting to gravitate towards these. You know, as word of mouth got round, companies like Jackson and Ibanez. Ibanez has already had a good quality low end. Their RGs had always been good quality, but I think they then stepped them up even further to try and match what these guys were doing. And also it kind of took away some of the bad juju around using factories in China. The fact that these are crafted in China guitars, you know, no longer is that a filthy word in guitar manufacturing. And it's not the first time that's happened. Epiphone, before they went over to Korea and used the Unsung factory for their lower end guitars in the early 2000s, basically Far East manufacturing was something which is considered in a very poor light. And now, if you're looking for a used Epiphone, you're looking for something which comes from a South Korean factory. So, whilst they're not the first company to trailblaze manufacturing in the Far East by any means, they were quite instrumental in kind of making it so that the quality was so well known that you couldn't avoid it. I don't know where in China they're crafted. Sometimes the factory names do leak out. So, for example, you know, everyone knows for Epiphones it's the Unsung factories, guitars that you need to kind of look for. In terms of, you know, sort of breaking down that barrier, you know, people started being more receptive to guitars being, you know, crafted in China, which is great. And as I say, what Squier have done is kind of brought up the quality of budget guitars, which is great. You can't fault a manufacturer for actually trying to raise the level of the industry that it's in, and this is something that this did. I mean, I own two of these. This was not the first one I ever bought. The first one I bought was a CVC Telecaster, which is the double bound one, and it's just, they are beautiful guitars, and I've kept the other one completely stock because it sounds amazing clean. So when I do clean tracking, the first guitar I reach for is my Squier Telecaster, which I'm not sure I would have said if I was in the same position in 2006. So that's what I believe these guitars are kind of done for the industry and what they've done for home musicians in general. They've kind of put instruments which were once only a dream kind of a bit more within reach. It's not, you know, a 1952 Tele. It never will be, but it's close in terms of the look, and it's very playable. So you can at least pretend, and you know, you can pretend very, very hard. I love these guitars just because of what they've kind of, as I say, how they've kind of changed the game at the budget end of the market. And you can't fault a manufacturer for doing that. So those are my thoughts on the Squier Classic Vibe Butterscotch black Telecaster, a guitar that kind of trailblazed what it could mean to be a guitar manufactured in China. If you like the video, throw a like down below. The subscribe button's there, YouTube, etc. Blah, 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 blah. I'm also on social media, so I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, same handle as the channel, Surely the End. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the guitar. If you've owned one, or if you own any of the Classic Vibe Telecasters, or if you've played one, what were your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I mean, let me know in the comment section below and I'll endeavour to respond as always. Short update, as you know, I am trying to learn how to sweep pick, which is going incredibly well. Fuck. So yeah, I'm still learning, still progressing. It's taking a little while just to kind of get the coordination in the hands, but you know, it was something I said I'd learn, and I really want to learn how to sweep pick properly, so I will stick with it and see how I improve, and obviously as I improve I will let you all know. But yeah, so that's the Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a like down below, click the subscribe button, YouTube, etc. blah, blah, blah. Anyway, until next week, take care. Bye.